Hey, what's up everybody? In this video, we're going to take a look at the second selection box for the month of June. And in this selection box, it's a special one because all 12 of the Tsums in this selection box are Princess Tsums. This usually happens once a year, where all of the Tsums in the selection box are Princess Tsums. So if you want to get one of these Tsums, you have until end of day, June 23rd to get one of them. So let's take a look at the 12. So we have Cinderella, Enchanted Aurora, Travel Anna, Bride Jasmine, Vanellope, Happy Rapunzel, Tiana, Romance Ariel, Belle, Elsa, Moana, and Pocahontas. Now let me know which one you are trying to get and which one you're really looking forward to. In this selection box, there are some Tsums in here that you want to get because some of them are going to make your monthly missions a lot easier. So I'm going to start off with my number one pick, and that's going to be Cinderella. Cinderella is a really good Tsum that's going to make a lot of time bubbles. Now, it's not the easiest Tsum to use, and you do have to play relatively fast and make the right chain combos. So keep in mind that in order to make a time bubble, you want to get anywhere between 10 to 11 is like the sweet spot to optimize your time bubble making. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But Cinderella, if you are a really optimized player for Cinderella, technically you could play Cinderella until you run out of batteries, because Cinderella will keep making those time bubbles, and every time bubble adds 2 seconds to the gameplay. So as long as you can make time bubbles effectively, your game is somewhat endless. So if the game is endless, that means you can earn a really high score as well as a really high coin earnage. But when it comes to coins, it's really not worth it because the trade-offs, how much time you have to spend to play the game, it's not worth it. It's probably better to just use Jedi Luke. Now onto my number 2 pick is going to be Elsa. Elsa is going to be a really good Tsum to make really long chains. And the reason for that is because her ability will freeze a bunch of Tsums and you could chain them. And what I mean by chaining them is you could connect multiple abilities and it'll continue to stack and freeze them. And at the very end, you could pop them all at once. And as you know, there's going to be a total of 45 Tsums on the screen at any time. So in theory, 45 chains is very possible with Elsa. On to my number 3 pick, and my number 3 is going to be Moana. I really like Moana because she's a really good Tsum to make score bubbles. Her ability essentially will turn any other Moanas on the screen into score bubbles. So if you are patient and chain a lot of Moanas at the very bottom where the Moana ability touches, changing all the Moanas to score bubbles, then you're going to get a lot of Moanas into score bubbles. Now, all of these Tsums that I mentioned in my top 3 aren't necessarily that great for coins, which is why I have a number 4 Tsum on here just as an honorable mention, because Vanellope is going to be the best one as well as the easiest one to use to get a lot of coins. So if you are looking for a Tsum that's going to get you a lot of coins, or at least decent amount of coins out of these 12 Tsums, then Vanellope is going to be that Tsum. But Cinderella, Elsa, and Moana are going to be very good Tsums for you to get through the monthly missions. Cinderella is going to be good for time bubbles or just bubbles in general, and Elsa is going to be really good for long chains, and Moana is really good for score bubble making. So there you guys have it. Those are my top 3 with the honorable mention. But without further ado, I do want to show you guys all of these animations for all of these Tsums. So let's start off with Cinderella. So like I mentioned in my intro, Cinderella is going to be really good for time bubbles. So let's take a look at her ability description. So Cinderella, for a short time, lets you connect different Disney Tsum Tsum and clear them. I'm currently playing Cinderella skill level 6, so she's going to clear a total of 12 Tsums. So it chains up to 12, but you really don't need to get all 12 in order to make the time bubbles. Just keep in mind, what you want to do with Cinderella is try to get into that sweet spot of 9 to 10 chains, because that's where the time bubble making is. As you can see that there are 2 time bubbles that I just made here. And if you are doing this right, you should be able to make anywhere between 6 to 8 bubbles per ability. And what you want to do is swipe from very left to very right. And you also want to do it by sequence too. So you want to start from the bottom to the top. I didn't really do these very well because I'm not really that great of a Cinderella player. So if you are looking for some tutorials on how to effectively use Cinderella, definitely just do a quick search. There's a lot of other players out there that will demonstrate how effective Cinderella is. I just really don't care for it because it takes a lot of time. to make these time bubbles, and the reward is really not worth it. And later on in this video, I do end up just giving up on the game because it takes a long time to really continue to play this. But I just wanted to make my point here that Cinderella is a really good sim to make time bubbles, and if you could continue to effectively make these time bubbles, your game is in theory endless until your phone battery dies, or until your hand cramps up, or until your phone gives up essentially. There are people who play for hours on end to try to get a really high score. I just don't think it's really worth it. I'd rather just collect coins and open a lot of boxes. So continue to swipe from left to right and then right to left in that sequence and make a bunch of bubbles. And if you are making time bubbles and you're doing it right, just keep practicing if you want to master Cinderella. But again, Cinderella is a really good sim for time bubbles, so if you have those missions that require you to make time bubbles, then Cinderella is the one to go. At the end of this gameplay, like I mentioned, I did give up at the very end, but I did stop eventually at 1,820 coins. It doesn't really do it justice because you could technically get infinity times, infinity coins, and infinity score. And that's why I sometimes roll her out when I discuss who is the best sim for time bubble making or high score or coin earning, because in theory Cinderella could technically beat the score for any of these sims that we have, but it's not really effective because the amount of time you spend to get the score or the coins is not worth it. So I'll end Cinderella here because it just kind of goes on forever. Next we have Elsa from Frozen. And the ability description for Elsa is clears frozen Disney Tsum Tsum with her magic. I'm currently playing Elsa at skill level 6, so her skill range is going to be extra large, but you technically don't need Elsa at skill level 6 to do what I'm about to show you. So what you want to do to optimize Elsa is that you don't want to pop the ice right away. Her ability will make a bunch of frozen ice at the very bottom, and then once you activate her ability a second time around, it could freeze the very top. So as you can see here, all of the Tsums are frozen, and you tap on it and you see a chain of 45 there. So that's how you would use Elsa if you want to get a really high chain. Sometimes we get those missions where it's telling you to get 32 plus chains, and it can be difficult if you don't have the right Tsums. So Elsa is one of those that's really good. Some of the Toy Story aliens are really good as well, but Elsa is my go-to when it comes to making a really long chain. So keep that in mind. You just want to stack her ability until all of the Tsums are frozen. And another thing that you want to just keep in mind is that you want to make sure that there's no gaps like right there on the bottom left hand corner, because when there's a gap, it makes it a lot more difficult to maximize the chain at the very top. So what you want to do is have the very bottom section, make sure that it's full. You might want to even use the little fan to tap it a little bit to make sure all the Tsums settle properly, because if you don't, you have those gaps. And then it'll be a lot more difficult to get a chain of 45. And also, if you have a big Tsum like you just saw there, that's going to add on a couple more Tsums. So if you have a big Tsum on the screen along with your other little ones, your chain in theory could be +4. So if you have one big Tsum on the screen, then you could technically get 49 of a max chain. And another thing you want to keep in mind is get rid of those bubbles, because the bubbles do get in the way. So if you're trying to freeze the bottom, clear the bubble. At the end of this gameplay, Elsa at skill level 6, I did end up with 2,035 coins. So not really that great for coins, but it is really good for making a really long chain. So that's why Elsa is my number 2. On to my number 3, Moana. Moana clears a horizontal line of Tsum Tsum, turns Moana's Tsum Tsum into bubbles. And I'll add a caveat to that the bubbles are not just regular bubbles, they're score bubbles. So at skill level 6, the skill range is going to be extra large, and you only need 8 copies of Moana cleared to activate her ability. So one of the things, or one of the strategy that you want to use is, as you can see, I have Moana charged up for a while now, but I didn't activate it until right now. And that's because when I first got the ability charged up, I didn't really have a lot of Moanas at the bottom section of the screen. So what you want to do is, if you are trying to maximize the score bubbles that are on the screen, you want to make sure that the bottom section of your screen has a lot of Moanas before you activate the ability. And in some cases, if you are playing Moana at the lower skill levels, you may need to wait a lot longer, because I believe Moana at the lower skill level, it's a lot thinner, and it's also towards the middle lower section. It's not the complete bottom half of the section of the screen. So you want to strategize that. But regardless, this is the best Tsum out there that you could get for score bubble making. All the other Tsums that make bubbles are all random bubble making, so they're not specifically for score bubbles. So if you ever have one of those missions where it requires you to make like 32 or 10 score bubbles in one play, Moana is perfect for that, and it's going to be really easy for you to get through these missions. So just take a look at it right here. I probably made 10 score bubble in one ability there, so it's very easy to make score bubble. So which is why Moana was my number 3 Tsum on my top 3/4 list. Now, at the end of this gameplay, Moana at skill level 6, I only ended up with 1,388 coins. So Moana is not going to be great for coins. She's really going to be that Tsum that you go to when you have a mission that requires you to make score bubbles, or even just making general bubbles. She's going to be really good for that. But when it comes to coins, unfortunately, not that great. And also the gameplay takes a while to get through. So when it comes to minutes played per coins earned, Moana is not that great. But Moana is one of my favorite Tsums because of her score bubble making abilities. So I definitely recommend you to get at least one copy of Moana, so that way to get through these missions. So that's Moana for you guys. On to the next one, my number 4 pick, which is Vanellope. Vanellope is from the Wreck-It Ralph series, and her ability description is clear Tsum Tsum in a zigzag. And as you can tell, I haven't maxed out Vanellope yet. I am going to be working on it. I ran out of coins, so I'm probably going to need to grind a little bit more to try to max out all of these princesses. But anyways, back to Vanellope. Vanellope is my number 4 pick because the top 3 Tsums that I mentioned aren't really that great for coins, and I wanted to share with you one of the best coin earners out of these 12. And the reason why I have Vanellope out of all these other ones is because how easy it is to activate her ability, and even a beginner can use it. There are other Tsums out there that could be competitive to Vanellope, but they're not as easy to use. So that's why I prefer to recommend Vanellope over the other Tsum, which is Happy Rapunzel. If you could effectively use Happy Rapunzel, she could be a contender for coin making, but because Vanellope is so much more easy to use, I have Vanellope as my number 4. So the strategy to using Vanellope is very simple. Is before you activate her ability, just make sure that the center area has a lot of Tsums, or at least where her car goes before she glitches out. All of that area should have a lot of Tsums in order to make a really long chain, because the higher the chain, the more scores or the more coins you're going to get, earning you your desired coins. And at the end of this gameplay, Vanellope at skill level 5, I was able to get 2,897. So as you can tell, I didn't play this game perfectly, so there's definitely a lot more room for improvement. So I think that 3,000 is definitely doable using Vanellope at skill level 5. And once I get her to skill level 6, I think the mid 3,000 is definitely possible when the ability is used effectively. So those are my top 4. I hope that you guys found this video helpful or at least entertaining. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let the rest of this video play out. I'm going to have all of these game demonstrations for all of these Tsums. And if you check out the description below, I'm going to have timestamp linking you to all of the Tsums down below. So if there are any other Tsums that you're looking into and you want to see the game demonstration for, just check it out in the description and click on the hyperlink, or you could drag the time bar to your desired location to the Tsum that you want to check out. But as always, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. And if you guys would like to see more Tsum Tsum content just like this, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And as always, thank you so much for watching.